Alrighty, hello, welcome. It is Geographically Challenged episode number 54, and this is going to be the RMR preview episode, the one where we talk about all the good things coming over the next week or so as far as Asia CS is concerned. And you will note, if you're a keen, got keen eyes, if you're watching, you can see that that's not Bleh. Believe it or not, that is not Bleh, but it's someone that's been around probably as long as Bleh. It's t0ks. He's wearing the OG Risky Gaming jersey. And I would say, actually, as far as your career is concerned, t0ks, that probably is the team you are most notable for playing in. And it was also the team that went on to become NASA Esports, but that was obviously after you left that roster. And I guess the other thing that people probably should know about you, if they don't know who you are, is that you did compete at a couple of Asia Minors back in 2016, when they were indeed still called Asia Minors. So you do know a thing or two about Asian CS, and that's why we've got you here. And not just Asian CS, but also Middle Eastern CS particularly. So look, welcome. It's good to have you on. We wanted to have you on, by the way, like 12 months ago for the last one of these that we did, but we couldn't get in contact with you. I don't know what happened to your Twitter like 12 months ago. But anyway, we've got you here now, so welcome, and it's good to see you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. For this introduction, and I've been watching it, and it's always nice to get some insights from you guys, especially in the Asian CS. And I'm a guy that's been there for a long time when it comes to Middle Eastern CS. I've competed, and I've lost a lot. Unfortunately, I didn't qualify to any of the minors, but back in the day, it was very tough because we used to play on European servers. So
Yeah.
these days, you can play on Middle Eastern, so it's a bit easier. But yeah, I had to take out the old jersey, which is very dramatic because I only lost with this jersey. But it reminds me of the Mongolz, since it's one of the teams that is competing, and later on I'll get to that. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here, and it's really good that you're doing this for the community, and I applaud you for that, really.
All right, well, hopefully the community is going to enjoy it. We've got lots to talk about. And also, what I will say is all the best casters and analysts basically were just bad players. So maybe you've found your home, and that's with us, where we talk about CS rather than play CS. Because Pilski had the same problem, actually.
I also lost a lot, and I didn't even get near an RMR. I just played in domestic professional leagues and got absolutely fisted by the teams that actually made it to the RMR. So there you go. It's if you can't play, then cast or go on a podcast that might buy you a coffee in 3 months, something like that.
We're all in the same thinking boat.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of buy me a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy, you can make sure to hit that one up and buy me a coffee, I guess, potentially. Either way, we've got the RMR to talk about, and we should touch on that one pretty quickly as to what it is. Obviously, the Asia RMR 26th to 28th of February, so that'll be on Monday, the Monday after this episode releases. The first game is, I believe, 10 a.m. local time, which is obviously Chinese time, because that RMR is going to be held in Shanghai at the Perfect World studio, which, by the way, is a great venue. Been there, and we talked about that in the previous episode if you're interested. It's actually quite a solid venue. I was pretty happy with it. I think the studio's good. The players seem to be pretty happy with it. They've got little prac rooms and stuff like that everywhere. Seems like a good setup, and it seems like everyone there from Perfect World really knows their shit. So I have full faith that this is going to go well. The opening matches: Mongolz versus Jijiehao, Grayhound versus Atox, Lynn versus Troublemakers, and Tyloo versus 15 average gamers, which is an interesting couple of matches, and obviously something that we're going to get into the discussion around. Now, what we normally do here is we normally do like a power ranking each, and we say, oh, well, this is the team that I think is the weakest, and this is the team that I think is the strongest. That's what we did in the previous episode. We're not going to do that this time. We're going to change things up a little bit. I think it'll be a little bit more fun. Maybe it'll be a little bit more interesting to watch and listen to as well, because what we've got here is we have our fantastic tier list maker, which, I think I stole this from HLTV Confirmed, but, they were doing it for the EU RMRs. I thought it was a good way of doing things, so let's do this. And let's talk about the teams and how we think that they're going to rank, and then we'll go through the bracket as well and break that one down. So I want to start off with, I think, Troublemakers here, because they're probably the team that we know the least about, unless you have something to throw in here, t0ks, because for me, I haven't really seen much of these guys. Obviously never, cast any of their games. I assume you haven't really played against them or anything like that. Do you know these guys very much at all?
No, I even like the HLTV, you barely see. I think they have like 3 or 4 maps shortlisted. So it's quite a dark area. I don't think we know much about them. I think they also have a Russian player with them. Or Serbian. It's I think they could be a dark horse, but I'm not quite sure. Honestly, it's one of these teams that you have no expectation, but you also expect them to do something. I think it's going to be an interesting team, really.
I think
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I legit am such a dumb cunt because, like, I honestly looked at it at a glance, and I legit was not even looking too closely. This was a while ago, and I've known for at least 2 weeks that obviously it's a team from, how do you even say it?
Kyrgyzstan.
Kyrgyzstan. Okay, Kyrgyzstan. I literally glanced at it on HLTV and I actually thought Vietnamese flag. I'm not trolling, because it has the yellow star in the middle and then the red outline. And I was like, oh, Vietnamese team, sick. And then I looked at it again. I was like, oh, I'm sad now.
Yeah.
Vietnamese CS not back, confirmed. No more Sky Red.
Look, I don't really know what to say about this team. The thing I think we have to figure out here is, look, I'm going to be real. You're being generous when you're saying you think they might be a dark horse, t0ks. I've got to be honest. I think that is really, if they were a dark horse, or if they were to make it, let's say maybe into the top 4, that would be an extremely impressive result for them. So I think for me, the discussion right here is whether or not they go into will not win a game, as in they are just going to go out 0-2, or if at least they will win a game, but they're probably not going to be super impressive. So look, if I had to be honest with you guys, I would look at those Middle Eastern teams and say I think they're probably a little bit stronger than Troublemakers as well, just on paper. So for me, my vote would be, I think this would be our first team that doesn't get a game.
I would agree with you, actually. I meant as a dark horse, but I wouldn't necessarily put them in your list as a dark horse, but maybe they're a dark horse to dark horses.
True.
If that makes sense.
That's probably a good way of putting it.
And we are ranking these as well without knowing the bracket, right?
Well, we do know the bracket, actually, but we are ranking this without knowledge of the bracket. That's kind of the point of this. The point of this is to be a power rank, not necessarily where the rank is going to end up, actually.
Because my rankings will definitely change, depending on what the bracket is, I reckon, because I really do feel like there's a bit of a triangle going on in Asia right now.
We will get into that, because we will go through the bracket and actually... You remember what we did last time, where we said, okay, this match, this match, this match. We'll do that, and then we'll potentially, it'll be different from what this is. But this, to me, is what is actually the relative strength of these teams, not necessarily where they're going to match up. So I would say, would you agree that they would be a 0-2 team, at least on paper?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I'm kind of sad that they beat my boy Derek. Would have loved to see some Filipino
Myth Avenue
representation in the Asia minor again. That would be sick.
Yeah, I would have also liked to have seen an Indian team as well. I mean, but I guess it is what it is. You just got to be better and win. That's just how it is.
Win the game, bro. It's not hard.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into 15 average gaming, because this is going to be where you're obviously ready to shine, t0ks, because obviously this is your region. We actually, Pilski and I, we don't really have a huge amount of expertise in the Middle East. I would say I have a passing interest in it because they qualify into the Asia RMR, but it's not really a region that I usually keep up with. So what do you actually see from these guys? Because I was a little bit surprised actually to even see them be the first seed through from the Middle Eastern qualifier. I was thinking it was going to maybe be Jijiehao, but these 15 average gaming guys come through looking good.
Look, these guys, they've caused controversy. I'm not sure if you followed on Twitter, some drama happened.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea about it, or should I?
No. I think you should explain, just for people that are
viewing. All right. So basically, it's 2 Algerians, 1 Lebanese, and 1 Ukrainian, and 1 Polish. So the controversy is with the Polish guy, aka Sharky. And what I've heard, and everyone is debating this. So they're saying that Sharky was a previous player called ZLY, who was faced banned, and he's also a Ukrainian, and he changed his flag. That's what people are saying, the rumors, that he changed his flag, and he's now apparently a Polish guy. And he played and qualified with the team, and he couldn't actually travel because the team mentioned that he's in Ukraine, and with the whole political stuff, he couldn't travel.
Sure.
But he did play with 140 ping, him and Queel, the other guy. So they both played with 140 ping, which is honestly was a surprise to me. While the other 3 actually made it to Dubai and they played with 10 ping. So that's where the controversy is, because the teams that they beat are actually complaining about this, calling them, cheating. And there's lots of cheating allegations against them. But the team itself, they defended them. they defended them and they said, no, we gave proof, we gave everything to the admin, so this is not legit. And so there's been lots of back and forth around this team, but if you put all the cheating allegations aside and the accusations, the core three players, which is Roskov and Lamdakor and Joker, so 2 Algerians, 1 Lebanese, they are insane players. Now you're talking about one of the best entries in the region, which is Roskov, and Lamdakor is sort of like a flanker type of player. And then Joker is like the godlike Oper, who's always top fragging with the Op. So these three players are actually very good. But it takes me back. Now, this last guy who is Sharky, the point of no return, this guy also now has visa issues. Now, I've heard from the team because I've spoken to the manager, and yeah, they're like, this guy cannot make it. So 4 guys got their visa except this guy. And now now there's some new rumors that, PGL believe that they're cheating, but at the same time, they don't want to say that they're cheating, so they're doing it because of the visa. And there's just lots of drama around this internally happening between the admins and the teams and the opponents. And I think this guy eventually will not make it, so they're going to get the coach to stand in. So this is why I feel like this team could have been a very strong competitor, but with all these, the topics I discussed, I think this team is probably going to be one of the 0-2 or will not impress, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that always the case, right? With the Middle Eastern teams, you always find like the team looks interesting. You're like, oh, this is going to be a pretty cool team. And then like some sort of roster instability, or more often than not, a visa issue. And I can kind of understand as well why there would be a visa issue, because obviously, if you're someone from Poland or Ukraine or anywhere in the Middle East really trying to get into China, like getting into China as an Aussie is not the easiest of things to do. But getting into it from one of those regions, I think, is even more difficult. So I don't know. Look, I guess it is what it is. I would probably defer to your opinion on this one, actually, if you're ready to go for it. But Pilski, say your piece, and then we'll lock it in.
I didn't even want to ask about the team that qualified, but just since we're talking about this, I know this is a bit of a derail from the tier list, but even looking at the Middle Eastern qualifier and seeing, obviously this is the team that qualified, but they might have to play not at full strength, which is unfortunate. But looking at other teams in the qualifier, like I'm seeing a South African team playing with Poison, obviously under the Bravado name. You've got Onyx Ravens. You've got
actually beat
Twisted
Bravado.
Minds. Yes. And then even Lacour, someone that used to play in the Aussie scene, is playing in one of the Middle Eastern teams. And I know he's been kicking around. He's played in like a bunch of different regions. So like, what do you think about some of the other teams that played in the qual? And who would you want to see, like, if instead of like this team, like without their full strength, just to give a shout out to some of the boys from the region,
Onyx Ravens, for sure. I mean, these guys were so unlucky. Pokemon, you probably heard the name, Pakistani player. He was on that team. The thing is, Onyx Ravens lost against 15 Average Gang 2-1, and then they lost against Jijiehao 2-1, and both on the same 3 maps. So we're talking about they lost. It's like a deja vu game where they lost the same maps against the same teams. Against different teams. But it's so hard. And I think the first loss was against 15 Average Gang. Then they had to stay up until like 1 a.m. When I talked to Jijiehao guys, they're like, we finished the game at around 3:30 a.m. And that's the qualifying game. But if I had to choose a team, it would definitely be Onyx Ravens, because I know these guys, they put in the money and the effort. They flew in Pokemon, and they had Tudson, I believe, a Polish player as well. So yeah, it's just a bit sad for these guys that they couldn't make it, because I know Ijram, he's also one of the best Middle Eastern players we have. He used to be at Nasser. He played against the likes of Grayhound and such. But yeah, these would be my team. I think 15 Average Gang, I have no idea how they made it. They had 2 guys playing at 140 ping, Queel and Sharky. Somehow they won, and it's a cause of debate between the teams, but I think fair and square, they deserved the win. 15 Average Gang, they did put out a really good performance. Onyx Ravens just, I mean, I don't know. They had everything right, but they cracked under pressure, probably.
Yeah, I mean, the sad thing for Onyx Raven as well, especially, is that they could have been at Extremes Land instead of been playing in the RMR call, which they didn't end up actually qualifying for. So, you know, they took the risk, obviously, as you would. You'd kind of have to. But it actually would have made Extremes Land a little bit more interesting because Acme, look, they were okay. They were kind of interesting to watch, but I can imagine Onyx Raven would have been a bit more of a competitive team. But anyway, look, besides the point, we're here to talk about the RMR. So where are we putting 15 average? Are they going into will not win a game? Because basically, look, as far as I'm concerned, it's Jijiehao or 15 average, like in terms of a power ranking, in my opinion, that would be in that 0-2 slot. So just on paper, I would have thought Jijiehao would be a little bit stronger, but again, they did get outperformed in the RMR. So I'll let you choose this one, t0ks. I think this is your call.
I think it's with what are they called? With the last slots,
Troublemakers.
0-2, Troublemakers. Yeah, I think it's just based on the fact that it's gonna be a coach probably standing in. So I think if it was a full roster and they had all things considered, I think they would do well. Probably maybe win a game or two, but under these circumstances, I think it's going to be an 0-2 as well.
Do you think that's a bit of a missed opportunity? Because like I feel like we kind of glaze over talking about Middle East a lot of the time when we talk about Asia scene. And now that we have someone like here, we should probably talk about it a little bit more heavily. Like obviously it's a bit of a hot topic of debate that there's 2 Middle Eastern slots to this RMR and one of them won't even be playing at full strength. So do you feel like that's like a bit of a missed opportunity? Because, you know, our kind of whole storyline behind it was like, it is what it is. Obviously there's only one OCE team, so us showing our bias, we think that's a bit sad. But
yeah,
whenever I see 2 slots for a region that's underrepresented most of the time, you want to see them like have a strong showing and show that that's like deserved. But these kind of situations take away from that, and not everyone's going to read into it like that. Some people would just say, well they didn't deserve it or whatever.
I think definitely Oceania they deserved more slots. That's for sure. I think no one debates that topic, but I think Middle East as well, because there are so many countries in Middle East, and suddenly they involved countries that are not even part of Middle East. You know, we've had
South Africa,
South Africa, and some countries like Uzbekistan. I think Kazakhstan. I'm not sure which countries, but they did involve many countries. Afghanistan was there at some point, but I think. With this team, the thing is, me as a speaker, you know, telling you about what I feel is different when you take it as a player, because the Algerian players, for example, this is a lifetime opportunity for them to be at this place, you know, to qualify for the RMR. They've never done it before. They've won some local tournaments, but being at the RMR, being in China, it's a dream come true to them. So I would say it's 50-50. For me personally, I would have said that it could have been a better team, in my opinion, a better, more skillful, I think, more dedication, but also these Algerians and the Lebanese guy, these 3, I have to give a big shout out to them, because they did play their heart. And I think under different circumstances, I would give 1 slot to the GCC region, which is like UAE, Saudi Arabia and such, and 1 slot to Middle East and North Africa, which is Algeria, Lebanon, and these Jordan and these countries. So, but because of how mixed up, and every time this shit happens, and we always tell PGL, and they never listen. So I think, I would have chosen a different team, but it is what it is. I'm just happy for the guys, and I hope they do well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, like, it's kind of hard when you've only got 8 slots and you kind of have to. It like almost feels like you have to give 2 to East Asia because of how strong Mongolia is, and also the fact that, you know, East Asia now kind of includes East Russia, because there's tons of Eastern Russian teams trying to qual through there as well. Obviously, you have to give 2 teams to China. You have to almost. You feel like got to give an argument to give 2 to Oceania as well, and then it's kind of like, well, that's 6 out of 8, 1 for Middle East, 1 for SEA, but then that's just not kind of enough. So
how does it work with the South African teams? Like, there's 3 South African teams playing in this, 8-team Middle East RMR close qual. Like, how does this all work for people that don't understand the region?
So South Africa, they really had nowhere to go, and the organizers somehow placed them for Middle East. I don't know why. I think in terms of competitive skills, they're probably very equal or similar in terms of the levels. So South Africa has needed to travel somewhere to play low ping, obviously, because they have no servers that are eligible for, having a combined region. So I spoke to the Bravado owner. I met with him, actually, and he had to fly his team as well. And they did play on a low ping. Yeah. It is. This was not paid by PGL. So all the teams, so Jijiehao, 15 Average Gang, and 2 South African teams actually needed to fly to Dubai to play on Loping because they were using Dubai servers.
Yes.
And if you play from South Africa, you get like 160, 170. If you play from North Africa or the Levant region, you also get like 160 or 170. So the only solution is to fly to Dubai. And so they paid that. Besides paying that, you needed to fly. You need to book the obviously the accommodation and book the VIP room or like a boot camp area. So it's a lot of money invested, and this is why I'm sort of happy that 15 Average Gang actually made it, because the owner actually paid for these players, and 3 of them made it here. It wasn't even a full team, so I kind of like that dedication. You took that risk, and it paid off. So that's where the struggle is when it comes to Middle East.
I mean, that's the story though that they want, right?
From the organizers' POV, I just wanted to ask, like, if they don't go to Dubai, they just go play on 160 ping. Is that what happens? Okay, just play with however you can.
Just
understood.
Your problem, basically.
Yeah. I don't know, like, what's the solution though? Like, at the end of the day, what is the solution? I don't know that there is one for South Africa in particular, because like, where can they actually? They can't play Europe, can they? They definitely can't play North America. So like, what do you do? Like, obviously you want to give these guys the opportunity to play, but at a certain point you can't just have, unless there's, I don't know, like, is there just going to be a South Africa like minor? Like, it's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? So I just don't know what can you really do. Everyone has their opportunity, but
I think the optimal solution here is that if you want to do a qualifier for a big region, lots of countries, and there's ping issues, and you want to involve South Africa, you need to give out a sort of like an incentive, some sort of compensation. Doesn't necessarily mean that's the full trip cost. It's just maybe half of it at least, so that the teams that fly out to Dubai, and Dubai is not an expensive city. Not a cheap city to fly in. It's very tough. You need the visa, you need the flight, you need the accommodation, even taxis. It's a bit costly. So I think there should be a minimum incentive for these teams. Like, for example, if you do a local qualifier for South Africa, and then the winner gets, for example, $5,000, that's a bit of, it motivates the team to, okay, we can fly actually with the $5,000. And I think another solution is to divide. And I always propose this idea: Middle East and North Africa alone, and GCC, and maybe now South Africa together as well, if South Africa gets that sort of compensation, because
and have a slot each.
They cannot face each other. It's impossible. There is no middle grounds here.
Yeah, I've heard that actually as a suggestion a couple of times, I think. But then the issue is, like, do those 2 regions deserve 2 slots? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, separately. If we're only going to have 8 slots at the Asia RMR, can you justify giving 2 slots to like those regions? Or, you know what I mean? Like, because it's very hard when, in theory, like, but and then look, I don't know. I don't really want to get into that, because like, I don't want to be sitting here shitting on the Middle East and being like, oh, these guys are not as good.
Don't want to be the hated guy, but I'll say it.
Because at the end of the day, like, that's kind of what the Asia RMR is anyway. It's like the Asia teams go to the major and then they get shit on it. It's like, well, I'm here sort of like campaigning for the fact that they should be allowed to play at the major, so I can't necessarily then turn around and say, well, these Middle East players who are therefore not as good as the Chinese teams shouldn't be at the Asia RMR. Like, that's just not fair. I just don't know what the solution is when you're trying to, like, you can't, like, not everyone can win, unfortunately. That's just the reality of it. Like, unless you somehow find a solution where you have a 12-team RMR, because like, even then you're like, well, it should be 16 teams, but that's just probably too many for Asia. Like, there's just going to be some dog shit teams at that point. So
pay that.
Like 12 teams, maybe you could have like 12 competitive teams, but like, how do you run that format? Because then it'll be a different format to all the Asia, to all the other RMRs. So that in itself raises some problems. But anyway, we're kind of getting into the weeds a little bit.
I mean, I just wanted to ask the questions because I feel like there's definitely gaps in my knowledge, and I think there's gaps in most people's knowledge about how all of that fits in and what some of the logistics and the problems are. So I simply wanted to ask t0ks, because we have him here and because it's a bit more Middle East representation in the RMR, like, the questions that I actually didn't know, so that I can better understand it.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Well, I guess we should move on. We've got Jijiehao here. So, I don't know, again, maybe you've got something to say for these guys' t0ks before we sort of put them in a slot. I guess I'll give you the floor.
I mean, Jijiehao, when you mention the name, it's the first name that pops up is probably t0ks. I think that's an OG experienced guy, ex-Spirit player. And then the next guy would be Isa. I mean, this guy has reached before. He's probably the first Middle Eastern player want to exclude Scream maybe from the roots. But Isa was the first Jordanian, let's put it this way, that made it into the major. And I think Isa took a break and he went to Valorant and he didn't do so well. Then he came back. Actually, at some point, I tweeted that there was some interest from a local organizer to invest in a team. And I put that out, and so many teams reach out, tier 1, tier 2. Isa was one of the players that reached out, and he's like, I want to come back full force. I'm building a team. Would the organization owner be interested in having us? And I told him, I'll look into it and so on. But Isa was one of these passionate, dedicated players. And coming back, also, he was one of the top performers in the qualifier. So Isa really here is the highlight. But yeah, I think Jijiehao, lots of expectation, good support from the organization, diversity when it comes to teams. There's a Lebanese, Jordanian, Russian. There's everywhere.
Could have been an Australian. Could have been at one point.
Yeah. But I think they are one of the teams that will do something. I think for me, they will be a dark horse. Definitely. I think they have what it takes. They also flew into Dubai to play, and with the experience combined from Ilian and t0ks plus Isa and the young rifler Mini is also one of those Lebanese players who if he's on target, on point, he's really deadly. Vita is kind of the support player that they needed because they had Remind, another Tunisian player who's sort of like a superstar player, but he didn't fit with the squad because they needed more of an anchor support player. So Vita is also an experienced player when it comes to... he played so many tournaments. He didn't win a lot, but he did play so many tournaments. And he's also a Lebanese. So just another fact here is the most representation we have is Lebanon when it comes to MENA. So there's 3 Lebanese players. But I think Vita also, he fit into that squad. I think he gave them that sort of... it's the safety. You need a safe player that you can rely on at times as an anchor player. Because I was an anchor player. And Breaker back in the day, who was my IGL, he used to rely on me so much. He's like, I don't care about the others. They're insane, but you are the guy I trust, because it's a very crucial role. And I think with all of that said, I think these guys will do something.
Okay. All right. Well, Pilski, I'll let you say whatever you want to say about Jijiehao here, and then we can put him in there in the spot.
I think looking at what they did in the 4-team RMR with their old core, which, it's not the same team or anything like that. They showed potential to be dangerous. And I'm thinking that maybe this team, could be of the same level, maybe even a little bit better. So depending on their form and how they come into the tournament. And I mean, obviously Elian at one point, I remember watching this guy in, I was hosting like EU MDL in the season that they won as like, was it Entropic or whatever org it was just before they were Entropic? And he was crazy, but I don't know if he's in that kind of form like he used to be. If he brings any kind of form close to that now, he could be very, very dangerous in a tournament like this for sure, and cause a lot of problems because I actually don't feel like the AWPers here are that level that Elian was in Europe. Like if you're a strong AWPer in Europe and you're farming in Europe, and you come to Asia and you show that same level, like people won't be able to deal with that. Like you're actually just going to get fisted. So I think Dark Horse personally, Dark Horse, see, I'm stuck between Dark Horse and will be competitive, right?
Dark Horse is like, they're probably not going to win, but they could maybe make an upset happen.
I think
guess.
Dark Horse, because the thing is you got Mongolz, Envision, Tyloo, Grayhound in this tournament, and it's
hard to make an argument
to qualify. So I think it's going to be 2 of those in qualify. 2 will be competitive. So Jijiehao has to go Dark Horse. That's just only fair. You can't put them in the same tier as those other teams.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you guys. I think initially, when I look at this on paper, I just look at Jijiehao and I go, well, 2nd seed from Middle East, they're probably not going to be a very impressive team. But what you guys have said also, in addition to that fact, actually the last 2 RMRs when we've seen the Middle Eastern teams, they've kind of almost done something. You know what I mean? Like Jijiehao when they were in Melbourne, they almost beat...
That's the tournament that stands out to me.
Was it they almost beat Grayhound or they almost beat Rare Adam? They almost beat one of them. I think it was... They took a map off of Rare Adam. No, they beat Rare Adam. Then I think they took a map off of Grayhound, maybe, in the lower bracket. But either way, they beat They beat Rare
I'm
Atom.
going to find out for you.
I'm pretty sure they beat Rare Atom and maybe took a map or took a map close to Grayhound in that lower bracket, which would have obviously meant they would have been eliminated. Because that was the decider game. It was only the 4-team RMR. And then going into Paris, the Twisted Minds roster, I think they made top 4 as well. So it was kind of like every time I've kind of come into an Asia RMR, I've gone, oh, these Middle Eastern teams, they're probably not going to do too much. And then they've kind of done something at least, you know what I mean? And so it's like a matter of time, maybe before one of these teams actually can get a top 4, for example. Or look, I'm not expecting them to qualify. That would be absolutely out of this world as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, we'll see what happens. Did you get that stat, Pilski?
Just give me a little longer. Give me
a little longer.
Jijiehao International it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was at the.
So they did beat Rare Atom. That's right. That's because we were so emo about Rare Atom. They like here's what happened. I remember Rare Atom should have beat Grayhound, and then Advent threw that clutch. Do you remember on Vertigo? And then we were like, oh, they should have won. And then they played Jijiehao, the lower bracket, got knocked out of the tournament. We were like, well, they could have beaten the team that won the tournament, but or that like top 2 the tournament, but they got knocked out.
Well, yeah, that and also actually, they did play pretty close to Grayhound, like 16-11, 16-12. Like that's not an absolute smacking for that.
And I mean, actually, you know what? Looking at the tournament, looking at that in that roster, it's almost like silly to compare because it's one player.
Oh, it's not even remotely the same team. It's not even remotely
even though it's like 2 Russian, 3 like from the Middle Eastern region, even though it's like Israel is obviously, I think a lot of people consider that Europe. You see them playing in like ESEA and stuff like that a lot of the time with like Israeli rosters. And obviously there's a lot of Israeli representation at the top of the European scene right now. So I don't know, maybe this is a bit more of more close to Middle Eastern representation than some of the Israeli boys that are kicking around in Europe already might be.
Well, hopefully they're going to do well. We'll see. Obviously, I guess it seems like they're the best hope for the Middle Eastern region. So we'll see how they go. Let's move on to Grayhound. This is where things maybe start to get a little bit spicier in terms of the top end of things. Obviously, the biggest news for Grayhound coming into this Asia RMR is Dexter has come back to the roster, replacing Sicko. That's the change coming through from the previous RMR. Pretty big change, actually, on paper. Obviously, IGL coming in as well, which is something that I feel like they've really needed. And massive firepower upgrade on paper as well. So all things point to this being a stronger Grayhound than what we've actually seen for the last couple of years. Again, on paper, some of the results, I think earlier on, after Dexter joined, probably the first month or 2, were a bit like up and down. But actually, of late, they've actually started to look a little bit better, and they seem like they're going to be a pretty tough team to beat. So I'm just going to go ahead and say I think they're going to be one of the 2 teams to qual, as far as I'm concerned. Hard to go past them, considering they haven't failed to qual for a major in like 5 years. So
I agree. I think Dexter's addition is like transformative for the team. And if this was the old Grayhound, I might not even put them to qualify, even though they've qualified a lot. Like their old roster, what I was seeing from them, I'm just watching them like with the eye test and watching some of those games, I was really not convinced. Like they were not looking that great. And with Dexter, like it's hard to describe, but like, you know, you see a team farm domestically in their own region, and Grayhound would win domestically. Like I felt like not even playing that well. Like watching Grayhound right now, some of the utility usage that I'm seeing and some of the ways that they like play at the moment, it feels so clinical. It feels like so precise. Like their game style has changed from being very sloppy to being very like to the point, like perfect utility timings, like HE grenades constantly landing, like taking timings the correct time. Like I actually legit think Grayhound's looking kind of dangerous. Like I need to see this Asia RMR first before I like get in on the hype train. But this is the first time I've been excited about Grayhound in like a good 2 years, I feel like, or like at least a year and a half.
Yeah, and I think like Grayhound, you know, they have the experience, they have the players, they have Dexter, they have everything, like you mentioned, on paper. I think it's just a matter of, are they going to be lucky or be unlucky when it comes to the best of ones and dropping to lower brackets? So I feel like if they have a bad start, this could be very dangerous for them. But I do still think they will climb back, even if they lose. They're one of the strongest rosters available now in the Asia RMR.
Yeah, I mean, I said it in the past as well. I think, at least as far as these domestic matches are concerned, they're a team that just thinks they're better than everybody else, and probably because they are better than everybody else. So they have that mental fortitude that even when they do go down early, you sort of never can count them out. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the same case when they're playing against, fucking Spirit or something at the major. Like that will probably be a little bit more difficult to kind of wrangle. Like, or BNE, for example, at ESL Challenge in Melbourne, like in that matchup, do they truly believe that they are the better team in the same way that they truly believe that they're the better team than like the Oceanic teams?
That game was fucking painful, bro.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I think when they're a team that when they know without a doubt that they are better than the team that they're versing, they will, even if they're down, win that game. Whereas if there's like a bit of an element of doubt, maybe then that's where some of those struggles kind of come through, and potentially that's what happened against BNE.
I think,
but against these Asia teams, I don't think that they're going to have that issue. And yes, I agree. I think Dexter's addition,
I've heard
in theory,
Dexter,
should help that out.
It was a long time ago, but I've heard Dexter can like have that attitude of just like, I don't give a fuck.
These guys
I'm
are
the best
shit.
player.
Yeah.
I think I'm the best player in the server right now.
I mean, he probably is 9 times out of 10, especially when he's playing in Asia. So, yeah, I don't know that there's really much more to say for Grayhound. We'll talk about it a little bit more when we get into the bracket prediction, because there is some nuances that will go on there. I think they actually drew the hardest best of one for the opening game, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's touch on Lynn Vision. So... This is a hard one. This is where the fun begins,
bro.
Yep.
I actually want to ask t0ks what he thinks about this, because between Lynn Vision, Tyloo, and Mongolz, like it just gives me head spins, bro. Like watching them all play each other. There's like some kind of weird triangle going on at the moment, and it actually I feel like comes down to the bracket between these three teams. Like I actually genuinely believe Grayhound can beat all three of them. But when it comes to like the three other teams, I feel like they can all lose. They all lose to like one of the other teams and can probably beat the other team. And if the bracket gets drawn a certain way, like one of them won't make it through, even if they're probably the better team.
I think so. Fun fact also, Lynn Vision actually qualified through Middle Eastern qualifier. I think it was like 3 majors ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
They played with full high ping. They played like 5 of the players were playing at 150, and they actually won. And they beat Nasser back in the day. It was very surprising to me. I have no idea how they did it, but it shows how good they are. And I think it was 3 core players that still play together from that point. I forgot the name.
Very long-standing core, haven't they? Like they're one of those teams that like you actually go and look at how long some of the players have played for Lynn Vision, and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So 3 players, they stayed with each other, and this is very important. I think this is very helpful for Lynn Vision, and I think it's one of those teams where you're like, I think they're similar to Atox. They're like a very strong Mongolian, but not the best. So I think Lynn Vision is a very strong Chinese team, but they're not the best. I think they have that element of surprise. And the thing is, it's always scary when it comes to best of ones, because it could be the 3rd best map that you play or the 4th best map. And it could sometime also work in your favor and you get your 2nd or 1st best map. Maybe it could be a bad veto. I feel like Lynn Vision, understanding, how the Asian arm are playing home soil, playing with their own fans and crowd. So I think that gives them the edge. It also puts them under some pressure as well. But I feel like they are not the most pressured team here. I think Tyloo would be more pressured when it comes
100%.
to Chinese. So I think Lynn Vision here are slightly, they're cut off some slack. So I think they're going to play well. I really genuinely believe that they're going to play well. But I feel like they're going to have tough matches. I don't know the bracket, so we're going to have a look later. But I think they're going to have very tough matches.
I wanted to touch on that as well. You said like the home crowd advantage. I actually think Lynn Vision benefits from that the most out of any of these teams. I think I agree with you. It's more pressure on Tyloo.
Was it G? Bro, G standing on the table?
I casted that. It was an IEM China closed qual, which was a LAN, and I was casting it. And let me tell you, there was like, I think like 500 audience in like a small like room.
Wow.
And like legit, the Lynn Vision guys were hype as fuck. They were screaming their heads off. Every round they won against Tyloo, they were going crazy. And this is where you get into this weird fucking discussion, which is who is the best team in China? Is it Lynn Vision because they seem to have such a strong head-to-head against Tyloo, or is it Tyloo because you think they're the better team? That's the question you have to ask.
Yeah,
yourself,
but
and it's fucking weird.
I know we're jumping ahead by talking about Tyloo, but I'm not making that same mistake. I actually watched the last episode of this back that we did for the Paris RMR, and I put Rare Adam first. And I look back in hindsight, I'm like, what a fucking idiot that was. And I said the same thing about the
you
Rio
were on
arm.
the Rare Adam Copia, bro.
I was on the Cope
so long, bro.
I was on the Cope for so long, but it's over.
The 10 tournaments in a row, they lost to Tyloo, and every final you'd be like, they're going to do it this time, and then they'd choke again, bro.
I'm sorry, but it's over, right? Okay, I'm done. I'm done with this team. I'm done with Tyloo. So as far as I'm concerned, Lynn Vision is the only hope for Chinese CS in this RMR. Whether or not they're actually going to be a contender to qualify for the RMR, as in if they're going to make top 2, I'm personally not sold. I actually don't think they make top 2. So
I would put them in will be competitive.
I think
because
so
the
too.
thing is, the last few international tournaments, like a few international tournaments ago, Lynn Vision was actually pushing. Remember that win against Nine, that crazy game? They're actually pushing some international teams. They were winning some maps. They were like, there was that game against FaZe with JKS, wasn't it? Where they were like, holy fuck, are they going to win a map?
Was it G2, I think? I can't remember.
Yeah, G2. Sorry, G2. Yeah, you're right. It's G2. And everyone was like, holy fuck, they're beating everyone on Anubis. These guys are actually good. Bro, the international tournaments after that, not good. They did not impress me, and that is making me extremely worried. And I think unless they get like a qualification game against Tyloo, when I know it's going to be a choke fest and they got that shit on lock in front of the home crowd, then they're not going through, bro.
If they play against Tyloo,
Grayhound or Mongolz.
If they play against Tyloo in a qual match, then I agree. But what I will say is what I saw from them at Extreme Zone didn't thoroughly impress me either. They didn't really look super competitive in that grand final against the Mongolz. That was on LAN in China in the exact same venue as where the Asia RMR is going to be. Like, it doesn't get any more, than that, basically. Like, it pound for pound. And actually the conversations that I was having as well, I was talking to the Chinese casters in China, and they were sort of saying like that this Lynn Vision roster has this sort of like LAN choking sort of issue apparently. And maybe that's the case. I mean, it certainly seemed to be the case at Extremes LAN because, they seem to be playing okay against the weaker teams, and then they versed the Mongolz. It was like, well, nothing really too exciting happened. And so I don't know. They're still quite a young team, like in terms of a lot of the ages of some of these players. So, is that a factor? I don't know. But even in general, even if we're not talking about LAN, if this was online, I would still say I think for me it's Grayhound Mongolz as the 2, regardless of what order. I don't think Lynn Vision makes the cut unless something funky happens with the bracket. So I don't know if you agree there, Tox. I guess it seems like you do. So we can lock them in.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think they're one of those teams that don't win tournaments but win our hearts.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I got to play devil's advocate because I'm talking about the triangle, bro. Like,
the Bermuda Triangle.
Okay, look, Tyloo, they got knocked out of Extremes LAN. They didn't qualify for Brass Premier, losing to Rare Adam. That's pretty bad. But right before that, what happened, Jordan?
They did beat Mongolz to qual. Yeah,
they didn't just beat Mongolz; they fucking thrashed Mongolz.
But okay, listen. You're playing devil's advocate. I just want to clarify. Advent had a once in 10,000 year game by dropping a 2-point,
and that's his 1 in 10,000.
No. Look at the first map though. Look at Nuke. He went like 24 and 12 or something on that. I don't know.
And then he went back to -6. True, he had one really good map.
If Advent plays like that, then Tyloo might qualify for the major. But Advent doesn't play like that, except for like a once in every 10,000 games. So I don't know that happens every time. Anyway, we're talking about Tyloo. We'll talk about Tyloo. Anyone got anything they want to throw in here? Or should I just put them in Dark Horse? Because I don't even know if are they gonna be in will be competitive.
What? For sure, bro. Come on.
You reckon?
Tyloo. I mean, these
I've gone the full other direction, like I used to be high for them, now I'm just like,
you
fuck
hate
those
China.
guys.
You just say you hate
The thing
China,
is,
bro.
you just...
I don't hate
the
China.
name itself, Tyloo. You mentioned Tyloo, you're like, that's the best Asian team. They're gonna go through 100%. You just don't even think.
That's what I thought
like,
last
Tyloo,
time.
man, that's the team, yeah. But then they go out. Something happens to Tyloo, and I don't know what happens to them, but I think they're a good choke material. I think they're gonna try to reach, but I think they're gonna drop. Or they're gonna win the whole thing. It's just it's like a high risk, high reward. I don't know if they're actually gonna do it. I think they do have the right players. They do have the right mentality and all of that. So skill wise, no one debates that. I just don't know what happens to them sometimes. It's either they're way up or way down. So I don't know, but I feel like there's a choke coming from Tyloo.
I think so too. Yeah.
I agree, but I feel like I have different feelings in the fact that this is the Tyloo script. This is the classic Tyloo script, and this is why they have to go and will be competitive. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
The opening BO1,
You've already sold
they
me.
shit on someone. Then they play a good team in the upper bracket, but it's not qualification, and they win, and you're like, oh, that was kind of a good game. And then they're in the qualification game, and then they lose 2 BO3s back to back, and one of them's like very winnable, like should have won that for sure. They are always like one of the teams that's in the top 2. It'll be like Grayhound or Mongolz probably. They will be like ahead on one map, and they should have won, and they will choke. Guaranteed. And it might be in the upper bracket game. That's what happened in Melbourne. It might be in the qualification game, but it will happen for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Obviously, the big change for Tyloo, I guess, just to briefly touch on that, Ormond coming in for Mosey. That's the change from the previous RMR. Again, people look at that and say, on paper, that's not a good change. I actually think Ormond, as an individual, has played pretty well in this roster. He seems to be actually performing pretty fine. As to whether or not that solves the issues for Tyloo, I don't think it necessarily does. For me, the biggest issue, obviously, is Advent is a bit of a non-factor. Ormond's not a huge fragger either. So you're really then kind of saying, well, Jamyoung and Mercury must have a good game, and Kaze pretty much must have a good game. And we know that doesn't always happen. So if Kaze's in good form and he's hitting his shots, and Jamyoung and Mercury are playing lights out,
I don't think Kaze moves the dial at all for me anymore. I think Kaze is just there.
Well,
like,
that's the thing.
Kaze is not a player that carries anymore. He just plays the role in the team.
I get that. Yeah. And is that acceptable when you've got Ormond doing the exact same thing and Advent? Like,
No.
Can you have 3 of those players? I don't think you really can. Then you're putting too much pressure on Mercury and Jamyoung, and at that point, it's like, even if they're kind of playing really well, maybe you don't get past, for example, the Mongolz, who have 5 players that can just literally fuck you in the face, except for maybe Mazzino. He's probably too young for that. But the other guys, they're fine. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know if it's going to work out for them. But
I think it's the bracket, really. The bracket will show us, like, because if they do have easy games from the beginning, then it's probably going to be good for Tyloo. If they have a strong game, then
we'll talk about that in a sec. I think these last 2 super easy for me as far as where we can put them. Atox, they're an exciting team. I think they're really cool. I like watching them, but I don't think they're going to be a team that's really going to qualify. So I'm not quite prepared to put them in will be competitive, because I don't think that they beat. I definitely don't think they beat Greyhound. I definitely don't think they beat Mongolz. I don't think they beat
they
Invision.
can go in Dark Horse because
But I think they have to go in Dark Horse.
It doesn't count. I don't think they could go in Dark Horse. I think because they're not a Dark Horse, right? Like we know what we're going to get from them.
Is Jijiehao a Dark Horse then? Like
they are, because
if you've
they're
got Jijiehao a Dark
factor.
Horse. Okay.
They're unknown factor. So I think for Atox, they either have to be competitive or they won't impress.
I think we're playing semantics then. We're playing semantics because
you
of
agree
what
though, Tox?
Well, no. Hear me out. We're playing semantics because of what I've named that category. That category is meant to be in between will be competitive and will not impress. Like, it's like, we're not going to be like disappointed. Basically, it's like, we're not going to be disappointed, but they're not going to do anything that's going to be like, wow, holy shit. That's kind of what that is. And I do see a world where like Atox could be a dark horse in that, like, I could see them maybe making top 4. You know what I mean? And to me, that would be a dark horse run from either Jijiehao or Atox. I don't think they're a dark horse to win, but I think they're a dark horse to be competitive. I guess that's more so where that category is meant to be, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't think they will necessarily not impress. I think they will impress. And at the same time, I don't think they're a dark horse. It's like it's a combination of both. So
hey, I mean, if you guys 2v1 me and say put them in competitive, then we do that.
No. So I think they will be a dark horse. So I don't think so many fans or people are gonna be expecting them to win, but they could win. That's the thing, because. And I spoke to you about this earlier. The Mongolian power is just the way they play. I think they just go to any tournament and they go all in. They don't care. They play all out. It's just, I think it's in their genes. So that's why I think both of these teams, I don't know, I could see them reaching like maybe a semi-final of the lower bracket or something, and then losing, and maybe even qualifying. But it also goes down to the bracket. But definitely Mongolz, I think they are for sure.
I mean, Mongolz is in the top 2. We're all going to say they're in the top 2. I'm pretty sure.
Atox, I think. Yeah, I think it's between. It's in between. Like,
okay, so let's just say where are you voting?
Say what category? Say what category. You can go first.
I'm putting them dark horse.
I put dark horse.
I put them in will not impress, unfortunately.
Okay, well, you've been outvoted 2v1, so they go in dark horse. But I would put them ahead of Jijiehao and Dark Horse as well, by the way, like because I think they're probably a little bit stronger, personally.
Okay.
So that's where I'll put them. And I think personally, I think you're battling on semantics more so, Pilski, rather than actually like if you're putting them in a power ranking. If you're do you not think they're better than Jijiehao on paper? Like if we're just doing it like that, because that's
I don't know.
I would say that I think they are, but we'll see, I guess.
Because you look at their results lately, and they've lost to like East Russian teams. They're like multiple times. They
but I just watched them
against Rare Adam and Huns.
Who did I watch them? Oh no, that was a different East Russian team. I watched them play against one East Russian team in Challenger League the other day, and I thought it was GR Gaming, but it wasn't. That was Grayhound that played GR, and they fucked them. But Atox fucked that other team. So I don't know. Look, we'll see. But I actually have some faith in this Atox team. I think they've got a lot of experience. They've got some good like young players on that roster as well. Players like Dobu, Cabal, like they're kind of veterans of the scene right now, but they're still actually playing quite well in Mongolia. So. I've got some degree of faith. I don't think they'll qual. I don't think, personally, that they'll upset any of the top 4 teams. I could maybe see them beating Tyloo on a good day. I don't think the other 3 are really achievable, but I think they're an interesting team to watch. And they're the reason as well, right, by the way, why I think this is one of the more competitive Asia RMRs that we've had recently. Because there's actually, like, as far as a 5th team is concerned in the Asia RMR, and maybe you can even make that argument now for Jijiehao, based on what you guys have said, as far as the 6th team is concerned, like, they are somewhat competitive, as opposed to, okay, they're just a write-off. Like, where, for example, in the previous RMR, Tyloo at that time was like, we're not seeing shit from them. We didn't expect much from either of the Middle Eastern teams. We didn't really expect much from Vertex. Like, there was a few teams in there where we were like, these guys are just not going to do anything. And even the second Mongolian team, which I think was Eruption at the time, it was kind of like, yeah, they're probably... It was like really just like Grayhound, Rare Adam, and fucking Mongolz at the time. But now it feels like there's 4 top teams-ish, and then like maybe a couple of interesting teams. So anyway, that's besides the point. But Mongolz, are we all prepared to put them in the qualification? Because I think at this point we have to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. They only kind of have been flopping at international events lately, but domestically, I don't think I have an issue with Mongolz. Although this is where I say it's a bit of a triangle, because they do lose to Tyloo more often than other teams, it seems like. So if they get Tyloo in the bracket, that could be a problem for them, perhaps. Especially if it's just like an upper bracket match that's not the qualification. I could see Tyloo knock them in the lower bracket, and then if they play Grayhound or something who lost the best of 1 down there, that could be GG.
All right, well, then I guess it's time for us to get into the bracket stage, and we'll see what we think of this one. We can probably go through this one pretty quickly, because I think we've kind of nutted out most of the major discussion. But Mongolz, Jijiehao, I think we're probably 1-0 Mongolz here, right?
It's a dangerous game, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I believe in an upset. I don't know. I just feel like there's gonna be some sort of explosive power coming from Jijiehao this game. I think it's gonna be close. I don't think it's gonna be a very easy game, even though on paper it could be. But I think there could be an upset there.
So
I don't know. I just have a feeling.
If there's ever going to be an upset, or Jijiehao going to make a run in this tournament, it has to happen in this first game.
That's the game. If not, then I don't think they're going to do anything.
Is that what we think is going to happen? Because look, I'm just going to go out and say Mongolz wins this. So if one of you says Mongolz wins this, that's the vote.
You'd be psycho to disagree.
You'd be trolling to say no. Like, you would be trolling to say like, there's a chance. There's always a chance. It's a best of 1.
But I almost want to do it. I almost want to do it.
No, you can't troll the first one.
And I do like the fact that you've got a lot of Mongolian viewers lately, so I just want to see what happens if
you just want to say they lose? It's fucking Pilski guy. All right, look, if we're being serious, Mongolz definitely should be the favored team in that matchup. Atox Grayhound, again, like I said, that's again probably the closest, like on paper, in terms of Atox, I think, is being a decent team. But again, like if you're really being serious about this one, Grayhound should probably win that, maybe 7, 8 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
So
I think
old Grayhound, I would have probably said like they've got like probably only a 60% chance of winning this game, but the way they've been looking lately, bro, I have a lot more faith in them. These other 2 games, like I honestly think like it should just be both Chinese teams. Not gonna.
I'm prepared to accept that. Are we prepared to go double China here?
Tyloo is not going to choke this game. I don't think.
Double
This is
China,
not. There's no pressure on them right now.
All right. So do we want to do the upper bracket first or the lower bracket here?
Lower bracket first.
Lower bracket
Lower is more
first.
fun.
Jijiehao versus Atox. Ooh. See, that's a bit of
BO3?
a spicy one. This is a BO3. All the lower brackets BO3. The semi-finals in the upper bracket will be BO1, and then that final in the upper bracket's BO3. So
Look, I think honestly, if Jijiehao doesn't win the first game, and I stand by that, I think they're gonna win this.
you think
It's
they're
not
gonna win?
my you know
Your Middle Eastern bias?
my heart, yeah, no,
Yeah.
but I do believe they're gonna win something. They're not gonna go there and just lose, because that's what Middle Eastern teams do. They go no expectation, they suddenly beat some
That's
team.
true. They do.
Which-
They do. Yeah.
So I think they're gonna win one of these. Either it's gonna be the Atox, or it has to be one of the Mongolian teams. I think if two Mongolian teams beat them, then
I mean, that's a pretty fucking
that's-
rough draw, actually. You draw the Mongols and then you draw Atox. By the way, like probably the strongest region in Asia right now is the Mongolian
Exactly.
region. Debatably China, but I would say probably Mongolia. So
I think you both will go with Atox, but I'm gonna go with Jijiehao.
I actually think I want to go with Jijiehao too.
I mean,
I don't
I'm
know,
going to go
I
Atox, but it's up.
I'm just
it's-
not
Pilski's
excited
got the
about
deciding
Atox.
vote.
I'm
You
just
got the
not
deciding
excited
vote.
about Atox.
I don't think I don't know. It's either gonna be a very hard stomp by the Mongolians, or it's gonna be a 2-1 with Jijiehao, some going Isa dropping like 35 frags, one of these games, you know. But I do believe losing the first game always ignites a team, and I think just because we also believe Atox is probably gonna have a very tough game with Grayhound. I don't know. I just feel like Jijiehao, if they get stomped the first game, they're gonna come back strong in the second. If it's a very close game, I think maybe Atox. I think losing as a stomp makes you revise so many things, makes you just want to put so much effort. While if it was close, I feel like, oh, we almost had it, so we're a good team, yeah. So we're probably gonna win the second. But that's this reminds me of one time we played the tournament in India, and it was risky gaming, and we were like, man, we're gonna beat everyone. Then suddenly we play Kabul. And Cobblestone, we suddenly lose. I was like, what the hell? We lost against some random team. And it was a hard stomp. It wasn't like a close game. And so we dropped from, I think it was like the quarterfinal, and then we had to win all games, which we did. But that put so much into us. Like, we're like, what? Guys, wake up. Wake the fuck up, you know?
Yep.
You're here, you're in India, you need to win this. So I think Jijiehao, if they lose that first game with a very hard stump, I think they're gonna win this. This is my.
Pilski, you got the deciding vote.
Uh,
All I'll say is, don't you guys think that Atox has better practice than Jijiehao does?
yeah, but you could have said.
But
don't
Jijiehao practices against lots of European teams. I
they?
think Atox, yeah, because they play on good ping in Europe, so that region has good ping to Europe. So, and with Isa's connections and Davcost, I think because Davcost is the IGL, so I think they probably play against good teams. So I feel like they gained a lot of experience from the practice. Atox probably played more tournaments, but maybe Asian, more domestic. So
Yep.
I think Jijiehao, they have slightly more international experience.
All right.
I think it's going to be close no matter what, but I think GG will make lower bracket
So
run. to be
2-1,
honest.
I guess we say Jijiehao 2-1.
I say 2-1, yeah, but I could see Atox winning. To me, it's like, I think that's 50-50, honestly.
You need to be sure of your answer.
Well,
I think
we've locked in.
Jijiehao.
We've locked it in.
Jijiehao.
Yeah. Okay. Troublemakers 15 average gaming. Again, this one's pretty hard to call actually, because we all don't really have a huge opinion on Troublemakers and 15 average gaming. Who knows what's happening with this roster at the moment?
I delegate to Tox, or I flip a coin.
This is actually a you call, Tox.
Tox, you could choose.
I don't want to go
God,
anywhere near
this
this one, mate. It's all you, buddy. This is the
Look,
guest privilege.
If it's gonna be the coach playing, then I think Troublemakers win. If it's not gonna be the coach, I think 15 average gang would win. So I don't know. Should we go with the risky one? Let's say the coach does well. I have no idea who the coach is. I have no idea what's his experience in the game. His name is Fatih, but I honestly don't know much about him.
Well, last time a team
but-
at the Asia RMI had to play with their coach, they got knocked out in last place, which was Vertex. So
Yeah, so I think with all of that and the pressure and so on, I think maybe Troublemakers here. I think this is gonna be a very fucked up game, honestly. I have no idea
love
what
it.
to expect.
I think this bracket is fucked up.
all right, let's go. 2-1 to Troublemakers then.
So who's won?
To Troublemakers 2, 15 average gaming 1.
You mean the score? I
Yeah.
felt like the votes.
No.
We're
Yeah,
not. We're
2-1
not
score.
voting. You're choosing this one, bro.
I think 2-0 actually. Troublemakers.
Okay, 2-0.
If there's no coach.
right.
Sorry, if that was the coach.
But you think that seems fairly likely at this point? If they haven't got that visa sorted by now, it's now like, well, now we're going into Wednesday morning. They've got 3 days to sort the visa because it won't be sorted on the weekend. And they have to be in China for Monday to play the game. So they would have to be flying on Sunday. So if they don't get the visa in the next 2 days, it's GG. So
Yeah.
it seems likely, I guess, if that's the case.
Yeah.
We'll lock it in then. Boom. All right, we have to go back up to the upper bracket. These are best ones, remember. Mongolz versus Grayhound. I can't believe they've got Mongolz versus Grayhound on the same side of the bracket in a BO1. This is, I think, at the last RMR, it was Mongolz versus Rare Atom on the same side of the bracket for this spot. But yeah, what do you reckon? BO1.
See, this is where I think our tier
way.
list is correct because I already have decided how this bracket's going to go. I think.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Give us your thoughts then.
I think Grayhound goes through. Lynn Vision always wins versus Tyloo. It's this weird Chinese matchup. Grayhound will beat Lynn Vision, and Mongolz will beat Tyloo in the lower bracket in a choke game, and then beat Lynn Vision.
Way. All right, well, let's get into that in a second. Let's just figure this one out. Mongolz, Grayhound, t0ks. Who you got here?
I'm going with Mongolz.
Okay, you're going Mongolz. Pilski's going Grayhound. I've got the deciding vote this time. I think, like traditionally in the past, the last couple of RMRs, I probably would have gone Mongolz in this one. And I see it's so hard. Like, it's a BO1.
Sexta.
Do I really have to do it to Grayhound again? You know what I mean? Because like I want to choose Grayhound. I really do want to choose Grayhound, and I think that they are probably a better team than the Mongolz in the long term. But
Jijiehao is 15.
Mongolz have been playing pretty well internationally lately. They've been looking pretty good. Like, it's really hard to like make an argument because we haven't seen Grayhound play against anyone decent yet. You know what I mean? Like, they've been playing AU teams. They've been playing like the One Code Frontier thing where they versed like GR Gaming was the best team that they played in that, and it's like, so what? You know what I mean? So it's like, I'd love to believe in the storyline.
Like a month ago.
Yeah, Grayhound wasn't there.
Same place.
Kind of stomped
Mongolz. That. Yeah, so that's why I also like give them the edge here.
See, because I've put in my power rankings, I would say I think Grayhound's a stronger team, but in this matchup, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, kind of want to vote for Mongolz. I think I'm gonna have to go the Mongolz. I think I'm gonna have to go Mongolz 1-0. So that'll be our deciding vote for that one.
Sorry, Pilski.
Sorry, Pilski.
That's fine. All good.
But again, that one is like
remember my script when you see it happen.
That one is so 50-50 though that like,
yeah,
I feel even a bit stupid saying Mongolz there. Like, I really could see it's a BO1. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so fucked. That should be a BO3.
Still BO1? Is that still BO1?
That is BO1.
That is absolute garbage.
Those should absolutely
be one of these glitches that seals the deal.
It's going to be such a fuck game.
It's MR13 BO1. This is a clan fiesta. This is meant to be the major.
Anyway, Lynn Vision, Tyloo. Are we all going Lynn Vision here? I'm going Lynn Vision.
So. Wait, I want to quickly look up like what their last few matchups against each other were like, but I'm pretty sure it's been. I watched at least a couple of these.
So Tyloo beat Lynn Vision to qualify, right?
To this? No, Lynn Vision beat Tyloo to qualify to this, didn't they? Wasn't it Lynn Vision that was first seed?
Last time Tyloo
Lynn Vision was Tyloo. Yeah. Wait, what? Lynn Vision beat Tyloo in the qualifier for the RMR. Lynn Vision beat Tyloo in the IM.
Lynn Vision beat them at Extremes Land, and it was they domed them.
Yeah.
And then before that, Lynn Vision won in the major qualifier, but it was very close. The RMR closed qualifier for China. Then in Challenger League, which is no pressure tournament, Tyloo won. Just saying, guys, no pressure. And then CAC, Lynn Vision beat them in a very close game. And then in Chengdu, Lynn Vision beat them. So in the last 4 times, Lynn Vision has beaten them. And in all of the like qualification games that are not things like, oh wait, what was ESL Challenger? Was that for the Pro League? No, that was a Pro League qualification that Tyloo beat them in. So that's fair. But Lynn Vision has won 3 out of 4 the last few times, but some of them have been very close. And
Very
before that,
close,
it was the Perfect World as well.
It was Rare Atom, sorry, Elfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rare
Tyloo
Atom.
beat,
Yeah, that's right. Rare. I saw that as well, which is making me feel funky about Tyloo as well.
So what? We're just gonna have to go Lynn Vision. I feel like you
Bro,
can't
Lynn
not go
Vision
Lynn
has
Vision here.
5 of the last, 4 out of 5 of the last head-to-heads, bro.
Yeah, you have to go.
Even though some of the games are close, they've won 4 out of 5. Like, I don't know, Tyloo. There's something about Tyloo playing Chinese teams for the longest time. It used to be the fucking Vici versus the old Tyloo. Remember that? Like,
Yeah.
there's something about these guys.
yeah.
They play a Chinese team, they can't win, bro.
All right. Well, you're convinced. I'm convinced. Doesn't really matter what you vote here, Tox. You're just outnumbered. But
Yeah, exactly.
if you don't go Lynn Vision, you're trolling. I reckon.
I was gonna go with them anyway.
Yeah, it's easy to say afterwards, after the fact. Anyway, Tyloo versus Jijiehao.
You should
So,
ask Tux first. Fuck.
Yeah, at what point does this Jijiehao dream end?
This is actually repeat of Melbourne. This game for me.
Yeah, Rare Atom versus Jijiehao.
This could be them getting knocked
Where they
out
get
again
they get
by a
knocked
Middle
out by a
Eastern
Middle
team.
Eastern team. Oh, dude.
I gotta say though,
No.
seeing Grayhound in the lower bracket, I don't think it matters.
I think Tyloo here takes it. If we're talking about Tyloo and Jijiehao.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. 2-0?
As much as I would love Jijiehao here, but yeah.
I'm
think
willing to
it's
say
Tyloo.
2-0.
I think 2-0.
I think losing against Lynn Vision will probably gonna be pissing off Tyloo a lot.
Yep. All right.
They're
so
gonna
for me-
take out all that frustration on Jijiehao.
Okay, Grayhound, Troublemakers. Well, this one's easy 2-0 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So-
Grayhound just fucks. And that leaves us with our upper bracket. Mongolz, Lynn Vision.
Mongolz.
Where Mongolz are going to win that one. I think even 2-0. I actually have the faith they win that 2-0, I think.
Mongols, yeah, Mongols beat them. There was one close map at Extremes Land. Did you cast that one? How did you feel about that game?
I did. It felt sort of like Mongolz was going to win anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it was one of those games where I was like, yeah, I just think this game's not actually going to a close series. That's kind of what the whole Extremes Land sort of felt like to me, to be honest. It was just like Mongols going through. Okay, they had that close game against Tyloo on Inferno. Very close game, obviously, multiple overtimes. But apart from that, it really felt like Mongolz was like on this different level, and then like Lynn Vision was above the rest, but like it was really just Mongols.
They play each other. They tend to play each other quite close, don't they? This is interesting. Mongols either stomps them or it's close maps.
The
And
only
Lynn
thing
Vision-
is,
I think
though,
that'll be
like,
2-1.
I think looking at the fact that the Mongols / IHC have qualified for all the majors in the previous, whatever, they're a team that when I think they're kind of a team that when the chips are down and it's really quite an important qualifier for them, they will win that qualifier.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't necessarily think you can say the same thing for Lynn Vision just yet, outside of against Chinese competition. So
I think
the mental aspect is
attend
there
a lot
for
of
Mongols.
international events off of the head-to-head they have against Tyloo. I'm not gonna lie.
I think if you go with this flow with the bracket and Lynn Vision making it all the way to the finals, I think this will also give lots of strength and positivity for the Lynn Vision, and just I think that's gonna make them win one map. But I don't think they're gonna win in general. But I think looking back at Extremeland, the ancient game, it was very close, but the Mongols will still win the next 2 games if it goes to the same maps, I think. But
Like
I do
6
think it's
months
gonna be a
ago-
2-1.
6 months ago, like Lynn Vision could have won this series, but I just don't know if Lynn Vision today wins this series.
So we're going to go 2-1 Mongols then, I guess. We're thinking it's close, but we're thinking the Mongols. In which case, down in the lower bracket, Tyloo, Grayhound. Again, like I said, I've kind of got not a lot of faith in Tyloo at the moment, so I think this one's pretty straightforward as far as I'm concerned for Grayhound.
Same.
Yeah, so
2-0, 2-1. I mean, I
think
could see
2-1.
Tyloo getting a map for sure.
I
but
think that the core of Tyloo has historically played Greyhound quite close.
It's a classic. It's a
Yeah,
classic.
it is. It is. I mean, they almost lost that game at the Rio RMR against.
Now, has this matchup ever happened yet?
Lynn Vision versus Greyhound? I don't think so.
I don't think they've ever played.
I don't think so. Because Lynn Vision wasn't at the previous 2 RMRs. They wouldn't have ever played against each other at anything
ever
else.
played each other, which makes it an interesting one. But
I mean, I'm still going Greyhound here.
My mind's made up. My mind's made up. I think Grayhound personally is going through the upper bracket, so I think
Yeah.
I honestly think they beat all of the other teams, including Mongolz. So
Yeah.
they definitely beat Lynn Vision for
It would
me.
be more of a disappointment to them if they don't qualify.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they kind of live off of
Huge
qualifying for the
disappointment,
majors,
yeah.
right? They're not a salaried. Well, they are a salaried team actually by Grayhound, but I think a lot of like the way that team actually works in general is they're qualifying for the major, and that's where the money's kind of coming from. Whereas for Lynn Vision and Mongolz and Tyloo, like they're kind of seem to be a little bit more org based. But I don't know what the future of that Grayhound roster looks like if they don't qual for the major. Probably they still stick around for the second major of the year and see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, it would be a big blow not to qual, but I do think they qual for the major from here personally. So 2-1, 2-0.
2-0.
Yeah, let's say 2-0. Close though, very close.
Okay.
In one of the maps.
Well, that is our completed bracket. We've got Mongolz and Grayhound again, which is not too much of a surprise. And what I will say is, like, as you say, Pilski, there's every possibility that Grayhound wins that upper bracket BO1, in which case, does it change the bracket at all?
No, I think it's
I
the
don't
same
think
no
so.
matter what. I think it's
Gr-
literally going to
Mongolz goes
be,
through the lower
you could
bracket.
swap Mongolz and Grayhound. It would be the same result for me.
100%.
But I personally think, Grayhound will probably. But it's a BO1. Yeah, if that was a BO3, I'd feel much more comfortable about Grayhound. But BO1, I actually, put pretty coin to Lippy.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I mean, that's pretty much all we had to discuss. I don't know if either of you guys have anything else you want to really say on this about the Asia RMR, but I think it's going to be a competitive one. I think it's going to be pretty interesting to watch. I'm actually really looking forward to it. I know the previous RMR felt a bit weird and scuffed and stuff like that, obviously, with all the issues. And look, I know it's maybe a bit of cope, but I actually think this one's going to go really well, just based on my experience in China recently. So I have every faith that it's going to go well. And I think we're also going to get a pretty competitive one, which is kind of nice to see. It feels like the most competitive one since COVID. So maybe the region's on the heel. I don't know. All right.
Yeah.
That's it. t0ks, thanks for coming. It was fantastic to have your insight, especially on the Middle Eastern teams. So much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. And like you mentioned, I agree with all your points. I think it's going to be a very, very good qualifier. Hopefully, Jijiehao, I think they're going to be the upset. They're going to be the dark horse. They could win it all. I'm not. My roots, I have to go with them at some point. But I think it's going to be very good. I'm honestly looking forward to it. It's for the first time we see some sort of fairness when it comes to the qualifier. Not extremely fair, but I would say 80%. So. Yeah, best of luck to everyone involved. And thank you guys once again for having me. And looking forward to seeing how that bracket goes out.
Yeah, we'll see if we're right. I looked at the last one and I was horribly off last time. So we'll see if I've gone any better this time. But we'll just have to wait
I'm always awful. But,
a week or so before we get that. But do make sure you watch it. It'll be starting on Monday. So it'll be fun. And I'll see you in the chat. Either way, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy if you're so inclined. And we'll see you for the next episode, which will be the post-RMR wrap-up, and hopefully that will include Bleh and maybe Mac. We might invite Mac for that one since he's going to be over there. But either way, see you next time. Hey guys, just at the end of this video, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Jean, who is my first supporter on buymeacoffee.com. If you'd also like to support me financially or any of my content, make sure to check out the link. It is in the description box below.